All right, everybody, welcome to the familiar faces and names, and to some of the not familiar faces and names. We look forward to getting to know you. Welcome to our Conscious Coaches Power Hour, where we learn, we reflect, we grow, we share. We are here as sages, crazy people, wild women, wild men, and we share what we've learned with you. We share our skills, our gifts, our experiences. We share what we've gone through so that you don't have to go through the same pitfalls that we have to, or perhaps it resonates and you can navigate your life a little bit better. So we are part of a greater group that is called Solo, which means search others and love yourself, which is such a powerful, what do you call that, tagline? Because when you deal with other people, you actually just see mirrors of yourself, which is a completely different topic. But I love the fact, search others for yourself and then love yourself. And Solo was started by Simona. She's right there at the bottom of the picture, and it's a huge community with all kinds of amazing offerings. Later on, we will show you the links and how to access that community if you're not part of it yet. There is a host of different modalities. Like, there's so many amazing offerings on that group, and it's worth a look. But today we are in the presence of Taryn Young, and she's a sex and relationship coach. And today she's going to share her knowledge, her wisdom around deepening your intimacy and arousal and pleasure, which is like, I don't even want to make this intro much longer because it sounds so juicy. I just want to like get in there and like learn and absorb. So without too much preamble, I'm just going to hand over to Taryn because I want her to just have maximum amount of time. So over to you, Taryn. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone here today. I'm super excited for this webinar and to have you all along. Thank you for being curious about sex, relationships, and intimacy. I know that it's still very much a taboo topic, and I'm here today to kind of speak into what makes it taboo and where we might carry a little bit of shame around sex and relationships. So yeah, I'll share a little bit about my story, how I got here, how I became a sex and relationship coach and what led me there. I'll talk into a little bit of the messages that we might get from society or the conditioning that we get around sex and relationships. And this kind of like, we're supposed to just know how to do it and do it well, but we're never taught how to do it. We're never taught how to relate with other humans. So yeah, I'll share some of that. And then I'll talk a little bit about the work that I do, how I work with my clients, and how we might be able to work together if you're wanting to dive deeper into your own personal journey. So yeah, here we are. What is more normal than sex? It's literally how we are all here and alive today. We're on this planet because of sex. And so in our lives, we all engage in sex and relationships, and we just don't talk about it. So let me share a little bit about my story. So I was pretty much a late bloomer. I waited until my first long-term relationship to have sex or to have penetrative sex. To kind of break that down a little bit, we think that sex is just like penetration, right? Whereas actually sex is kissing and touching and maybe oral pleasure. But sex becomes this huge, big deal. Like, oh my gosh, losing your virginity. Like, when's it going to happen? Who are you going to let take it? And so, yeah, I waited. And in this 3-year relationship with this partner, I think that I had 1 or 2 orgasms. And I was kind of like waiting for this like big magical thing to happen to me or to be given to me. But I didn't really know how to get there myself. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a self-pleasure practice because that can be really shamed. We don't get the message that that's a positive thing to do, right? So I would get really stuck in my head. I would be worrying about all kinds of things. Is my vulva normal? Does she look good, smell good? Is it okay down there? Is he enjoying himself? I was really good at giving pleasure, but receiving it myself was really, really challenging. I'd be worried if I was taking too long, if I was orgasm, what it might feel like, all of these expectations and things, and just everything running around in my head. And I was completely disconnected to the pleasure that I might be able to experience and the sensations in my body. And so I started to get a bit of a complex about this. It really started weighing on me. Everyone else out there seemed like they were having orgasms, but I wasn't. And so this kind of like perpetuated that experience of getting caught up in my head because I was consistently worrying about it. And orgasm isn't necessarily the goal of sex. I'm definitely an advocate for slowing down, really exploring each other's bodies, exploring your own body, and really feeling all of the pleasure that you can feel without the orgasm being the goal. However, as someone who hadn't really orgasmed that much, it was the goal for me. And that's okay too. If this is something that resonates with you, it's fine if orgasm is the goal right now. And at some point, you can explore all of the other things. And so fast forward a number of years, many other intimate experiences and relationships later, I had some orgasms and they were incredible. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I can experience this. But how do I get there more often? Because there were these barriers. It wasn't the norm for me. And so within my experiences of dating and relationships and other encounters, it wasn't just orgasm and pleasure that was a challenge. There were many other layers as well: communication, knowing my own needs and boundaries, experiencing ghosting culture, and ultimately just being really like confused and frustrated with dating, with relationships. I knew that I was craving a deep connection with someone, but I couldn't seem to understand how to get there, or the person that I was dating didn't know how to get there either. And so after a few really confusing breakups and like a really big one in 2019 was really the tipping point for me. I was kind of at my wit's end, and I started to realize that, okay, I'm having this craving of deep connection and intimacy with someone, but I actually have to start with myself. I have to connect more deeply with myself, with my body, start going on a journey of uncovering my own patterns and my own behaviors, and being able to connect then from that place with someone else. So I took myself by the hand and I started exploring and discovering what might be out there. There has to be something out there that can help me. So I started doing self-paced online courses because that felt okay for me. Doing an in-person workshop at that point just felt way too daunting and scary. And then I sort of like worked my way up to doing that. I started participating in some women's circles. I went to some workshops and retreats, and ultimately landed up at ITSE, which is a sexual, shamanic, spiritual week-long retreat, which I don't know if some people maybe in this webinar have heard of or been to themselves. But yeah, it's a pretty radical retreat. And wow, it was so liberating for me. One, just all of this content being spoken about in such a like casual way in some regard, or just like really deep diving into everything. Just seeing other naked bodies. Like in South Africa, we're still pretty conservative, and we don't really get to see other naked bodies. And we have all these messages telling us what our bodies are supposed to look like. So I had shame around, growing hair in places that you're not supposed to grow it as a woman. Or, like, is my vulva normal? I don't know. Like the only reference point we really have to go for that is porn. So yeah, the sort of shedding of physical layers of clothing, and then also the figurative layers, peeling back the layers and deep diving into content around patterns and boundaries and needs and consent. And it was at this retreat that I turned to the friend that I went with, and I was like, oh my God, where has this teaching been? And I realized during this week that I know that I'm having conversations outside of this retreat with friends, with family members, with peers, that everyone's craving this deep connection or wanting to improve their relationship or their sex and their pleasure. We just don't know how to get there. So I knew that I wanted to bring more of this to the world. So I went on to train as a somatic sex and relationship coach in an 18-month training with the Somatica Institute. They're based in San Francisco. And yeah, again, an incredible training and a deep dive into all of this content. So that's what I'm here to share with you today, to talk about, yeah, just, what is available, what is out there. And I think there's so much power in sharing our stories, which is why I've shared my story with you today, to kind of normalize the experiences that we have. You might think, oh my God, I'm the only one experiencing this thing. I'm the only one having trouble in my relationship. I'm the only one like feeling this way about sex. And the reality is we all go through it in some shape or form. Okay, so I'm actually going to share my screen. Oops. Because I've got a little PowerPoint to go off. Okay. Just bear with me for a second. There we go, share. Nope, present. Okay. There we go. Can you see my screen, everyone? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so my business is called With Pleasure Coaching. And yeah, we're here to just explore and discover together. So I just want to take a look at our education and the messages that we might get from this. So if you grew up in South Africa like me, your sex education was probably quite similar to mine, which was gory images of STIs, lots of drilling in about AIDS, some talk about pregnancy, and basically scare tactics and that sex is dangerous and that you shouldn't do it, right? There might have been some talk about rape and how harmful that is, but I certainly don't remember any conversation about consent and how to be empowered in your boundaries and to know how to communicate that with someone, or to know how to hear someone's no and respect it. There's so much coercion that happens out there. And I've certainly experienced that. I mean, I know we joke about like, oh, come on, just the tip. But I've literally heard that like multiple times. And I'm not here to blame or shame anyone that's said that or that maybe has coerced someone. We're just not taught anything around consent and really how to relate and be with someone in that intimate space. Yeah, I want to maybe just give a few more pointers about consent. I mean, this webinar is going to be a little bit more broad because it's hard to kind of like dive into certain topics. But I just want to give you a bit of a taster of what's possible in terms of education and tools and being a bit more empowered. So when it comes to consent, we might get the education around a yes and a no, and that you should listen to someone's no, but it doesn't go deeper than that. We get verbal consent, speaking it out. We get non-verbal consent, which is really body language. You can tell if someone's like feeling relaxed and at ease or leaning towards you or touching you, that, those are like verbal yeses. But if someone's kind of stiff and frozen and like giving like these indications that maybe even they're leaning a little bit backwards, you can kind of tell that they don't want to be there. So just to name that, consent can be verbal and non-verbal. And where it can be really helpful is, for instance, I mentioned that I can really get stuck in my mind during sex. So either with a new lover or with someone that you're in a relationship with, if you do get stuck in your mind, this might look like having a consent conversation. So let's say you're kissing someone for the first time but you're actually now in your mind thinking, oh, what's going to happen next? Are they only going to take my clothes off? Are they wanting sex? Like, what's going to happen? Okay, now you're stuck in your head and no longer really present in the moment. So you might want to pause and say to them, hey, you know, I'm really enjoying making out with you. I'm feeling super turned on. This is really exciting. And I just want to mention that I can tend to like run away with my thoughts, but I want to really be present with you. So what will help me be present is if when you feel a desire to, you know, escalate and move on to something more, if you can just pause and check in with me to see if that's okay. And that can reassure you that they're going to check in with you and you can just enjoy the moment. Or maybe you're someone that doesn't like being checked in with verbally. You can say, I would really like you to follow your desire. And I am really good at holding my boundaries. So don't worry about overstepping any boundaries because I'll pause and I'll tell you that I'm not ready to escalate that far. So this is just kind of giving you a little taster of what might be able to help you with certain challenges that you have. And consent is really just one of them, but I'm just kind of giving a taster. So to bring it back to our education, we also kind of get taught to obey, to please, to say yes, otherwise we're going to be punished. And we can really get disconnected from our bodies. Knowledge and intellect is really celebrated, and it ends up kind of having the result of us really living from our like shoulders upwards. We're never taught to like really connect with our bodies. Yeah, so the narratives that we might have as well from a young age that kind of get implanted in us are the fairy tale narrative, you know, being swept off your feet by Prince Charming, or, you know, meeting this beautiful damsel and you live happily ever after. Romance movies where boy meets girl, there might be a chase down at the airport, really romantic, oh my God, undying love. Definitely a scene where like there's passionate hot sex and they fall into bed and there's penetration and immediately a partnered orgasm. Not really education, okay? But it starts putting these little stories into our head of what love looks like, what relationships are supposed to look like. And when we start meeting challenges, we start thinking, oh my God, am I just with the wrong person? Yeah, this kind of like the one or the soulmates or the fairy tale, the romantic movie, they kind of make us believe that when you meet the right person, everything's going to be easy. They're just going to get you, and you know it's going to be happily ever after. Yeah, from porn we kind of get again these like hot scenes, but I really want to tell you that porn is entertainment. It's often made from the male gaze. And this is where some people are getting their education. It's the only place they can turn to what sex might look like. And we're not seeing the scenes that are negotiating what you like and what you don't like, how you like to be touched, how you don't like to be touched. We're not seeing the awkward moments, the like funny sounds or, you know, those kinds of things. Through media and marketing, we're getting so many messages about what a desirable person looks like, what your body is supposed to look like, what sexy looks like. So again, we're just getting all of these kind of messages. And so what we don't realize is that we actually have to teach our partners how we want to be loved. We actually have to know ourselves, get to know what we like and what we don't like. We have to teach them slowly and lovingly, and also be curious about them and how they like to be loved. None of us are mind readers. I wish we all were, but it's just not the truth. Okay, so to look at some of the societal, cultural, familial, and religious expectations. As I kind of share these, I want you to just take some time to see as I share them, yes, that one's kind of impacted me. Oh, I didn't realize that this was a message that I'd internalized so much. you know, it's almost like they just get little seeds that are planted in us, and then they're watered and they start growing and they take roots. And at some point we realize, like, actually it's not my belief, it's something else, it's someone else's belief. Like, so I want to give you permission to start questioning whether it's actually a belief that you have, and that's also okay. You can have these beliefs, that's totally fine. But if it's not something that's serving you, you're allowed to start questioning it and maybe seeing what might be able to work for you that's different. So kind of across genders, you might get the messages of only have sex when you're in love and married. Sex is dirty or bad. Sex is only for the bedroom. Penetration leads to orgasms for everyone. Sex just happens and happens well. If you have sex, you'll get STIs, AIDS, or fall pregnant. And although that might sometimes be true, with great education, it can also be avoided. So you might also get I haven't written everything down on this slide, but you might get the messaging that monogamy is the only moral way to have a relationship, that loving, connective, and romantic sex is how sex should be. Anything else is dirty, or there's something wrong with you if you want that type of sex. Old people don't have sex, or if they do, it's gross. And only certain body types are desirable. Now, we also have gender socialization, which is if you were born with a penis or if you were born with a vulva, then you get particular messaging as you're growing up, and you get treated a little bit differently. So to highlight some of these, as a male, you may have gotten the messaging of you must always want and be ready for sex. You should always have a rock hard cock. You should always orgasm. You should be dominant, muscular, and manly. Showing vulnerability is weakness, and you should not show any of those emotions. You must be the provider. What is celebrated is you can be promiscuous and sleep with many people. That's okay as a man, usually. As a female, good women are not too sexual. You should not be a prude, but you also shouldn't like sex too much, and you should definitely not be a slut. Your body count should not be high. Women's worth is often linked to their sexual appeal. You might get the messaging that sex is primarily for male pleasure. And yeah, just so many messages around body size, breast size, how you present yourself, what you look like, and you should be pretty and precious. Yeah, I don't know if we get to see the chat if I'm sharing my screen, but if any of you feel called to share what has maybe impacted you, what messages have stuck with you, even if there may be something that I haven't mentioned, please feel free to share in the chat. So yeah, along with the education we get, the societal messaging, cultural, religious, there can also be things that we hear from our peers at school that can really impact the way that we feel about our body and about sex. When you're young, you might get caught touching yourself, and yeah, parents can kind of shame you for touching yourself. So all of these messages really can get internalized, and maybe some of them are even before you have memories, and that can kind of like really stick with you. So just to highlight that sex and relationships is this topic that has so much shaming, has so much constriction around it. We're inundated with these messages. And as humans, it's really important for us to belong to a community, because, well, at least for our ancestors, that if you were outcast, it could actually mean death. And so that's kind of stuck with us as we've evolved. We still have that feeling of needing to belong. But with all of these messages we get that are shameful, we start changing parts of ourselves. We start hiding those parts of ourselves, and we think that we should never share these. And so a lot of the work that I do with my clients is to unravel these messages, like, what shame are you carrying around sex? And more often than not, we share the same feelings. We think that we're the only one feeling this, but bringing it into the light and talking it out is so liberating. Because as I say, so often it's a, yeah, me too, you know? So I kind of want to go back for a second to the message that sex is only for the bedroom and only for your partner. When we get this message, we start to compartmentalize our sexuality, our sex. Skip that slide. And we start thinking, okay, my sexual energy is only for the bedroom, it's only for my partner, that's the only time I'm allowed to feel it. And our sexual energy is actually so much of our aliveness. It's so much of our vibrancy. And so how can we kind of start getting back in touch with our sexual energy throughout the day? If you think about how fun it is to flirt with someone, that like playful, vibrant, like flirty energy, why aren't we flirting with life? Why aren't we flirting in all moments of our life? And I don't mean spilling over and like trying to attract someone and things like that, but just really allowing that energy flow throughout your body. And we don't do this because we have been taught like it's only for the bedroom. I want to kind of do a little bit of an embodiment practice here just to demonstrate what it might feel like to get in touch with your sexual energy, to see what differences it might be able to make. Is everyone happy with that? Great. love your enthusiasm. Okay, so take a moment to make yourself comfortable. You might want to shift yourself in your seat, stretch your neck, move your body. Take this moment to check in with yourself, feel your body, see if there's any part of it you want to move. And I'll invite you to close down your eyes. And we're going to breathe into your chest. So if it helps you to put your hand on your chest, just to direct the breath there, just take an inhale and relax on the exhale. Take another 2 of those here. Really just coming into presence with yourself in your own little bubble. And with your next breath, I'm going to invite you to inhale through your mouth and exhale through your mouth. So this is just inviting a little bit more energy. Breathing through your nose is pretty relaxing. And when you start to breathe through your mouth, just adds a little bit of energy there. You might want to sigh out on your exhale, relaxing into it, hearing your own breath, your own voice. And on your next inhale, you can bring your other hand up to your belly and start deepening your inhale all the way down to your belly, letting it expand. The world tells us to suck our bellies in, but this is your opportunity to really just relax your belly, allow it to billow out when you inhale. And again, relax on the exhale. Sighing, yawning, making a noise. It's all welcome. And as you're here, just start to notice any sensations in your body, any thoughts, any sensations, tingles, tension. And on your next inhale, if it feels good to you, follow your breath all the way down through your belly and further down into your pelvic floor and even into your genitals. And relaxing on the exhale, inhaling. If you can't feel your breath go all the way down, just imagine your breath going as far down. Just imagine your breath touching your pelvic floor, going into your genitals, and relaxing on the exhale. Keep following your breath. Keep taking it as far down as you can. And again, just noticing for yourself what's alive there for you today. It's very normal if there are some emotions, if there's numbness, if you feel excited, it's all welcome. If this feels strange for you, embodiment takes practice. There can be a lot of conditioning around this not being an okay thing to do. Just notice for yourself where you're at today. And take 2 or 3 more deep breaths down into your genitals, maybe even squeezing and pulsing your muscles there. Noticing your sensations and your emotions, your thoughts. And now becoming aware again of your hand on your belly, your hand on your chest, bringing your breath to its normal state. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back into the room with me. Beautiful. Yeah, so this is just a small example of an embodiment practice to connect to yourself, to connect to your sex, to connect to your genitals, and to see what's available to you. And see if you can keep that connection that you've just created through the rest of this webinar, through the rest of the day. Yeah, this is just a taster of a practice that I might do with my clients to start really, getting back in touch with all parts of ourselves. Okay, so to talk a little bit about, let's see if I'm with my slides here. Yeah, the work that I do with my clients, and as you can see, there's lots of different arrows that I've drawn, from self-awareness to embodiment, emotional empowerment, and communication. It's because there's no one space to start. They're all dynamic, they all flow into each other, and they're all little pieces that we use to build ourselves up and to really feel empowered and know what we want, and to communicate in a way that's loving and kind and still looking after ourselves. So these are somewhat the kind of like guiding pillars that I work with, because when you bring 2 or more people into a relationship and you're together in intimacy, you bring in 2 childhood experiences, 2 different woundings, 2 different cultures potentially, and attachment styles and conflict styles and needs and desires. And we expect that you move in together or, you know, get married and you live happily ever after. But there's so many parts to relating that really we can work on if we so choose. So self-awareness speaks a little bit to building a loving witness to your experiences. So just starting to become conscious of your patterns, your behaviors, your protective mechanisms. We all need our protective mechanisms that we maybe created when we were younger to keep ourselves safe, but maybe they're not serving us anymore in our relationships and in our adulthood. So thanking them and choosing a different way. Under self-awareness, I might work with clients on activation levels, on noticing when you're triggered, on what to do when you're triggered, and how to navigate conflict in a healthy way. We all have our automatic first responders, which, if you might be familiar with them, are flight, fight, freeze, and fawn. And it's likely that these will always be the automatic responders. It's just how we built as humans. And when we perceive a threat, that's what happens. But what we can do is we can become aware of them through embodiment practices, through self-awareness, and we can slowly get better at choosing a different way, choosing a healthier way to navigate our triggers and navigate conflict. Yeah, under self-awareness comes knowing your needs, your boundaries, your capacity, that you're allowed to have needs, that you're allowed to share your needs, and also being aware that sometimes people won't be able to fulfill your needs, and that's also okay. So when it comes to embodiment, as I kind of just demonstrated, there are a lot of different practices that one can do to start cultivating more of a connection between your mind and your body. So kind of like bridging that gap. And our bodies give us so many signals throughout the day. Some of them are major signals that you cannot ignore, and some of the signals are really quite little, much like a whisper. But they're all giving us information as to what we're experiencing, how we're feeling, and we've kind of been conditioned to push them down, to suppress them, and ignore them. And so embodiment can be really important for, again, if you get stuck in your head, it's like learning how to notice that you're having some thoughts. Oh my gosh, I'm getting stuck in my head. I'm running through my to-do list. What do I do to get myself back into my pleasure? Start breathing, focusing on the breathing. Start focusing on the place that's being touched. Yeah, so embodiment can be so important for all of our experiences as humans, basically. Yeah, when it comes to emotional empowerment, yeah, as humans, we have emotions. It's part of our human experience, right? And we're so much taught to suppress our emotions. We're celebrated if we share our elation and our ecstasy and our happiness. But if we show our sadness or our grief or our anger, yeah, we're kind of taught to suppress those. So emotional empowerment is, people can also be really scared of feeling their emotions and not know what to do with them. So we learn how to regulate our nervous systems, how to feel our emotions, how to really be with them, and how we're able to move through them. They're not going to kill us. Move on to the next slide. I'm going ahead of myself. Yeah, communication. So we can be self-aware, we can be embodied, we can have our emotional empowerment. And it's really important that we know how to communicate with a partner, with people in our lives, in a way that is loving, that is non-shaming and blaming of them, of taking responsibility for yourself, and to really have the skills on how to communicate. I just want to touch on conflict for a second here as well. One can believe that, oh my gosh, my partner and I are having conflict. Clearly this isn't the right relationship, but conflict can actually be the glue, part of the glue that holds a relationship together. It's just learning how to do conflict well. So managing your triggers, knowing how to have conversations from a non-triggered space, and working out between the two of you what works for the both of you. Everyone's different. There's no one size fits all when it comes to relationships and intimacy, when it comes to sex and pleasure. So we need to be able to communicate about these things. You will probably mess up. I mess up. You won't always get it right. We're all human. We're messy, we're emotional, and it's okay. But we can learn tools and practices to help improve these parts of ourselves if we want to help deepen our connections, be vulnerable, deepen our intimacy. And it's really, intimacy is a learned skill. You know, we get taught everything from brushing our teeth to tying our shoelaces, driving a car. And, you know, now those things are all second nature, but think about how many times you stole a car when you were first learning. And so it's really a lot of the work, again, that I do with my clients is practicing. So practicing the skills, practicing sharing a boundary lovingly. Oh, no, that didn't quite sound right. Maybe I try that again. Really learning and refining the skills. Yeah, I'm conscious of time because I do want to leave some time for some questions. I'll quickly touch on core desires, which, yeah, really relates to sex. You know, I mean, we might think that we go to sex for pleasure and orgasms, which of course we do. It feels fucking amazing. But what I work with my clients on is the feelings you want to have from sex. Often, like, one of the most common things is low desire in a relationship, and it can often come down to not getting the sex that you actually want, not getting the sex that feels good to you. And so your core desires can be kind of refined over time. It takes some time to get there, but refined down to sort of like 3 or 4 desires that kind of stick with you through life. You might be able to get those desires met from a number of different scenes that you play out, but those feelings tend to stay the same. And so, as you can see on the screen, some people might want to feel noticed. Some people want to feel prioritized or protected or powerless or degraded and used or irresistible or humiliated. This is not an exhaustive list of the feelings. Of course, there's many. And yeah, often you and your partner will have very different feelings that you want to get through sex, but you can get them met through the same scenes. So yeah, this is probably some food for thought and something that you can ruminate on for yourself about what you might think you want from sex. And you can kind of go back to your, let's say, top 3 hottest experiences you've ever had and see if there might be like the same feelings throughout those experiences. It's a good way of kind of digging into them. You can also look at your fantasies and what might be common themes in your fantasies of feelings that you might want to be getting. Okay, there's a lot packed into 1 hour. So just to pop on here, yeah, my business is called With Pleasure Coaching. And it's a little bit different from talk therapy. I also weave in there embodiment practices, some breathing, maybe some visualizations, and what I like to call a relationship lab. So really, again, testing out different things, trying on different things, experimenting and exploring, having a range of menu options, because we're really in life given like 1 or 2 options when it comes to sex and relationships. So exploring what else might be on the menu and doing this together so that we get to practice and learn the skills. I have 5 individual coaching spots available. At the bottom, I've just put, yeah, a 3-session package, a 6-session package. I am very happy to give anyone live today a 20% discount on these packages. That's valid if you book before Friday this week. I have a free guide on awakening your arousal if you're interested. That also comes with a 10-minute somatic practice. If you head to my website and there's a pop-up to subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get those free practices. I don't know if you can see all of this because I think the faces block it a little bit, but my website is withpleasure-coaching.com. My Instagram's up there as well. And yeah, I'd love to know if anyone has any reflections or questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. I haven't been able
you
to
unmute.
Yeah,
There
I see. Unmute. Wow, Taryn, there's been such a big, like there's a few moments there. It's like the ones of like practice. People think that often we think, oh, I read it, I learned it, I tried it once, I tried it twice, it didn't work. And then that's that, right? And trying different roads curiously to have both or more partners' needs met, you know. And I love that you skimmed on the monogamy thing also, of like, I mean, if you are sexually not compatible, but you are compatible with everything else in life as partners, you know, why not? Why not be polyamorous or open up that relationship so that everybody can find what they need? Wow, does anybody have any questions? Lots of messages here at the bottom. Let's go down.
Yeah, I'm just having a look through the chat quickly. Thank you for sharing, everyone that shared in the chat. This is lovely.
Yes, and that it's right what you say, Lindy, is that some things are so obvious, but because we don't talk about it, we all think like, I am alone. You know, it's just me. Yeah, it's just me going through this. For example, as I said in the comments, it took me a while to realize that guys don't show up hot, ready, let's go, you know, or that midway through the sex. Some guys just because they also go in their heads, you know, and they go flaccid, and then that's a thing, you know, and it more often than not ruins everything. Whereas if you have the tools to navigate a situation like that, it can actually become an incredibly intimate moment and a vulnerable moment.
The big key is the vulnerability, right? We're also scared to be vulnerable, to really show these parts of ourselves. And some of the best sex I've ever had in my life is after a really vulnerable conversation, you know, like really being able to either share what's been really challenging for me and like what, you know, is this something that we can figure out a way to do better, that I don't get stuck in my head or whatever it is. And also my partner sharing with me vulnerably and sharing his emotions. Like, my God, what a turn on. It's sexy, you know? It's like, oh my gosh, you're sharing this part of yourself with me that no one else gets to see. Yeah, but it's a scary, scary thing to do.
Especially if you embark on these things on your own and you don't have community or guidance or, you know, as you said several times, is that we all think that we're alone, but we're not alone. We all go through these things in perhaps in different ways, but we have all been, if you've been sexual with more than one partner for your whole life, even then we all go through these different phases of, as you said, do I look okay? Do I smell okay? Like, is everything like okay? Like, if he goes down on me, like, you know, is it like funky? Is it tasting good? Oh, pineapple. So, yeah.
And so that's really like the invitation that I'm giving to people, is to say, like, I really wanted this space years ago and I like didn't know where to find it. And once I found it, I wanted to create more of that. And so, yeah, it's really my passion and mission to create safer spaces for people to go like, oh, I've never spoken about this before, but actually I can see how this might be able to help me. Like, can we speak about this? You know, like there's nothing, I'm never going to shame people, I'm never going to judge for what you know, have been through or desire or
and the body count, I love that you mentioned that, you know, the body count, like who cares, you know, who cares how many people you have been with, because it gives you experience, you're learning you're learning about yourself and you're learning about somebody else, through that moment, and the naming and the labeling, and like Jason says in his comment, like forgetting about the labels. We don't need that anymore. There was a time when we needed that as humanity, as society, but I think we've evolved. We are evolving out of that, and we need more. We need more education. We need more tools. Yeah.
Like the goal is like to be in intimacy. So through everything that we do, like how can I be in more intimacy right now?
Yeah, I love it. This is amazing. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any more questions? Yeah, intimacy can be learned.
Just mention, even with me saying, you know, like how can I be in more intimacy right now? Not necessarily just with a lover or, you know, a romantic relationship, but with family and with friends. Like how can I be in a deeper connection with you? How can I be be here as presently and intimately as possible?
Amazing. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you to everyone.
Yeah, cool. So next up, what is that? Conscious Coaches Power Hour. We've got our YouTube channel going. So please, if you've missed this or not, please share it. Share this link with as many people as you think would be interested, and subscribe to the channel. We have, I don't know how many more we have going this year, but we have quite a few webinars posted on there already on various topics. And it's really insightful and informative. So please go and check out our Facebook page. And yay, in 2 weeks' time, it'll be more. And, you know, it's so lovely to follow up on Taryn because our work is in a similar vein. And our next Conscious Coaches Power Hour, I will share with you my experience and my work around unlocking your inner radiance, a self-love. It's about self-love. So it's about, it's almost amazing because I'm following up on Taryn with intimacy with other people, and my work is about intimacy with yourself, and finding who you are. Who are you? Because once you know who you are, you can set those boundaries and uphold them. You can explore more curiously because you're not afraid. You know who you are, and you are continuously excavating and learning. And so yeah, in the next 2 weeks, I will share those tools, and it will be exciting and informative. And I'm super excited, as you can see. Mary, next slide, otherwise I won't stop. So as promised, the solo community details. So there's an online portal that you can check, and on there is different sages. There's a section for sages and for seekers. So if you're looking for something specific or a specific modality, you can go on the sages section and you will be able to see who's offering what. And then there's a WhatsApp group, as I mentioned before, and the WhatsApp group is super interactive, and there is a lot of information there if you want to start out there and then pop over to the portal so that you can connect with sages like Taryn, myself, Mary, who are experts in their fields and that can guide you through being happier and being radiant and being you, you know, being you. All right. I think that's us for this week. It's been amazing having all of you here, and seeing everybody's faces. And okay, no, we didn't see a lot of people's faces. Lots of cameras were off today. But it was amazing that you are here, and we see you again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Stunning. And is it Angie or Ange?
Where did I miss Ange?
So we've got one raised hand. Just wanted to, do you want to?
Hi.
Sorry, Ange, I didn't see that.
No, don't worry. I just wanted to say thank you for organizing this. It's absolutely amazing. And Taryn, for your wisdom and your insight and your story, just so powerful. And, you know, it's just like scratching the surface. And it's like, I was so blown away by the belief system that I have, you know, and I always thought I was so open. I've like written a book about this. It's insane. So I just really wanted to say thank you. And I'm a Kundalini coach and a healer. And yeah, I just such respect to you ladies and courage for doing the work that you're doing, and to all of us really. And I think the more that we do this and collaborate and kind of come together in this field, I think we could be really impactful. And yeah, so if anyone ever wants to collaborate as well, I do a lot of workshops with women, and in Kundalini there's it's a beautiful technology for really getting in the body, and there's meditations for women to cut the cords of your past relationships with men. So I'm sure you know this, but when you sleep with a man, you literally take on his whole generational trauma, and it takes a lifetime to let go. And we've got meditations to release this. So it's such a beautiful medicine as well, you know. So I've got such gratitude that my path purpose, you know, that I get to do this. So I look
Yay.
forward to seeing you all, and
Stay
you know,
connected.
yeah, thank you. Thanks,
Yes,
ladies.
thank you. Thank you
Have a
so
beautiful
much.
day, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.